Aloha. Hey, how's your economy? Ooh, bad question, right? If I'm to believe some of the pundits, they say it's doing quite well, but people claim they're not feeling it. Well, again, that's also depends, I guess, on the political point of view too, because others will say that things are terrible now. I guess that's one way to look at it. If you're underneath the crush, under the weight of it, absolutely, it's a weird time. Yes, it's absolutely a weird time. I apparently am on the receiving end of this situation because it is doing quite well. People are really heavily employed. Wages have been increasing, although not keeping up with inflation. But there are jobs. There's a lot of competition with employers to try to get the better people right now. Even Boeing claims there was a COVID brain drain. That's why their airplanes are falling apart. So they're looking for good people everywhere. If you have anything to offer. So that part of the economy is pretty hot. The stock market, also hot. On the, I wouldn't say it's on fire, but it's strong. It's really strong. It rolls a little from day to day, depending on what the Treasury's thinking up there. When somebody they're scratching the wrong cheek, as they walk out of the building, they go, oh, they're going to raise interest. But it's a very predictable cycle in the stock market. The rise and fall very much over whether there will or will not be interest rates dropping and rising, is like a basketball. You can predict it and you can make so much money on the dribble of the ball if you're willing to play that game. That's happening. And so the other thing about it, I think I digress. Well, back during the Vietnam War, we had a lot of World War II veterans around, Korean War veterans too, but particularly the World War II veterans. One of the favorite sayings, man, was, "War is good for the economy. War is good for the economy." Oh, man, I heard it so many times because I wasn't really interested in war, I was draftable, blah, blah, blah. This was at risk for me. And the economic argument over whether we should invade a country and kill everybody, kind of lost on me, really was. But that is what they used to say. You don't hear it much anymore. Those days are gone, I guess. Why don't we hear that anymore? I don't know. Anyway, it was true within the limited scope of the fact that these guys had lived through the Great Depression, and when World War II hit, it tooled up industry, put everybody to work or sent them to war, one or the other, and it fueled the country. Yeah. It organized it, picked it up out of the Depression, fueled it, put industry back to business. Ford was making trucks, for the Army, but they were making trucks again. And it was a long period of sort of doldrums through the 50s after that, but it was fairly stable. The Depression had ended. And so what they would say about war being good for the economy was actually correct from their point of view. Right now we got an interesting situation because, technically we are at war in numerous places, but, one of them that's more serious than others, I suppose. You start getting involved with Russia and you get involved with Israel, you gotta, that's not one bunch of African revolutionaries trying to take down the government, in Senegal or someplace. It's much greater threat, wider implications, and of course we're involved. I hate to say it, but all that armament whether we give it away or whether we issue them a loan on it. It doesn't matter. It's really good for the economy. And so technically, right now, we are hanging in the balance over whether we are or are not a wartime economy, depending on what happens in Congress. And so this is, whether you realize it or not, or had thought of it, is another thing, not just what's happening at the Treasury and, what Janet Yellen may say on interest rates and inflation. No, it also has to do with what those yo-yos in Congress decide to do about helping to support, mostly Israel and Ukraine in this case. I'll tell you what, that's a lot of bullets, Yeah, it's a lot of bullets. People talk about job security, and in my opinion, there is no such thing unless you happen to be an undertaker, a bullet maker, or the only guy within 50 miles who's got a whiskey still, all right? That's job security. Otherwise, you can forget it. There was a time maybe where, people would go to work for the steel mill, work for their lives, get a pension at the end of the railroad, or a coal company or whatever, Ford Motors. Yeah, there was a time that sort of thing used to happen, but it hasn't happened for a long time now, man. There is no loyalty when it comes to that sort of thing anymore. So most of us, we have skipped through numerous different jobs and perhaps many careers by the time we get to the end of our working life. Most of the companies that I worked for at one time or another, they don't exist anymore. Yeah, most of them have been absorbed by someone else. That's where most of them went to. They got bought eventually, because they were fairly successful. I worked for a couple of things I think that went under because they were dumb, but no, mostly they're gone today. Anything to do with them whatsoever. So it's like everything just keeps passing on. The amount of different careers, essentially, you could say that I've had, it's been the same. Some of it's been self-directed. Some of it's been because of the way life pushes you. It's hard to pick it all apart, but I have been on many paths economically, when it comes to employment or also being an entrepreneur, which has its advantages and disadvantages. So there was the big question, let me know. Tell me, how you feeling? I am curious. I would say that I'm doing well, and I think things are pretty good myself. Major issue, in my opinion, right now in this economy is bringing that inflation level back down. You want to go to Australia right now, your dollar's worth $1.50 over there. So there are some ways you can advantage this, but we're not all going on vacation in Australia this week. So that's hard to take it. Even if you're segue here into currency trading, perhaps, yeah. So how that one considered, how's your stocks and your investments? They are not necessarily the same thing as how's your economy. Maybe they are, maybe they're not. Depends, how deeply invested you are. Because right now, the answer hopefully should be, wow, doing pretty good. Yeah, I'm happy. Should be, I'm happy. My investments and interest rates are up on dividends and on interest even on CDs. Boy, there's a lot of money out there right now. Companies are, most of them, doing quite well. There's a lot of good growth in companies, unless you happen to own Tesla. Oh boy, he was all right for a while. Anyhow, the question comes up, I think, in my mind because of a friend of mine, a guy who used to work for me, who has property here, and he had done pretty well investing in stocks and saving his money and such over the years, and he'd put up enough that he was probably going to be able to start to put a house up. He had a stake for that. It's a good stake. Well, somehow or another, I'm not sure how this happened, but he got convinced that he was going to make a lot of money on Bitcoin. Well, he lost everything, sadly, and I don't even think I should be talking about this here, because I'm going to have people pop up and start talking about Bitcoin on this channel, and I don't want to see that here. Okay. Currency trading is one thing. I touched it at a time in life while experimenting with different vehicles for investing. Yeah, I wasn't born knowing how to do this, and they did not teach it to me in school. Most anything I learned about investing, I learned over a 12-pack of beer with my buddy Fred, whose brother was a stockbroker. Yeah. And we just sit around and discuss this kind of stuff, and then I put it to work and try and experiment with this. Well, currency trading, I had understood at a point that there's some Japanese housewives that just sit around and will, as a dollar against a yen and, a Canadian dollar against a euro and whatever. And so they will buy and sell these things at a mark, making a quarter here, making a $50 on that one here, and making, these are generally small amounts of difference between currencies, but they do this stuff, supposedly after they get the house clean, and if the husband's making a good living, these women just sit around and click on this stuff. And well, I saw a show, I think it was on PBS or something. I said, well, that's kind of interesting. Let's see how this works. So I made a shot at it, and I got into Canadian dollars, euros, American dollars, and so on. Currencies that have known values and are worldwide respected and considered money anywhere, okay? Yeah, they're considered money anywhere on the planet. Doesn't matter. Well, what I found out is that it's a very active thing. If you want to make any money with currency trading, you work for it. Yeah, I'm not a person who likes to sit there and work with my investments. I much prefer investments that tend to work by themselves. I just go in and check on them periodically and make some modifications, but don't take a lot of maintenance from me. Well, I got out of it and sold the stuff out, and it wasn't for me. And then this Bitcoin thing rose up, and I'm looking at this and going, what? This is currency trading again, but it's currency trading in something that doesn't even actually have any value, known value. There isn't, in other words, you can't take a dollar and say your dollar is worth this. The Bitcoin people will do it in reverse, okay, but only in reverse. The Treasury does not value the dollar, okay, against a Bitcoin. There's talk. People have said they're going to do that sort of thing, but it hasn't done. It's mostly a social media thing. It's a pyramid scheme and a pump and dump. Elon Musk. Yeah, he pulled a good pump and dump on that one, because he's well known, very visible face, opened his mouth about the Bitcoin. Well, Musk is buying. All right, people come in. Well, Musk sold his. Yeah. See. You get people excited about stuff. You see it in the stock market too. Anytime you see articles about how you must buy this stock, don't buy that stock. Okay. Yeah, because it's basically mostly pump and dump. Somebody's got a stake in it. They're not making any money on it, but if they can rouse enough interest, things will go up, and they will pull the rug out before it falls. That's mostly Bitcoin. Bitcoin also has a couple other reasons why does it exist, other than being a pyramid scam. Well, it is a way of doing an exchange rate on the dark web. In illegal activities, it's a possible way to pay for drugs. Since cannabis is only quasi-legal in the U.S., there are cannabis companies that deal in Bitcoin. They will take Bitcoin, because MasterCard won't deal with them. The bank won't deal with them, But, it's used for gun running. It's all, in my opinion, really quite negative stuff. There is very little about it that is socially redeeming, but economically, oh man. Yeah. Oh, God. I'm into socially responsible investing to begin with, okay? And currency trading, well, even if Bitcoin was a good place to be invested, which I don't believe it is at all. I don't see it as an investment. But even if it was, there is really no social value in making $0.50 off the rise and fall on currency. It's basically Vegas. Yeah, it's the crap table. Which, there's nothing wrong with that, really. But there's nothing really good about it either. In general, gambling is not the best thing for humans to engage in. I don't think. It's another process of addiction for a lot of people. It depends on who you are. Some people can use it just as recreation. I've seen this. It's just something they do that makes them happy once in a while, but a lot of people really get absorbed in it. Well, and that's a lot of the way we deal with currency trading, stock trading, and so on. This is the way people tend to see it, which is what stockbrokers do. The guys are traders on the floor. That's exactly what they're trying to do. Yeah, they're trying to buy and sell to make money for the company. Buy and sell. But the average gardener, guy like me, sitting over here trying to stay out of the rain, with a kitty cat, right, Gracie? I'm not interested in that kind of stuff. I just want an income. Yeah, that's my interest. And so, I believe in socially responsible investing. Generally, I tend to think when you come at something with what would seem like good karma, or that it's a beneficial act, okay, maybe, or neutral to beneficial, doesn't really have any dark sides much to it, you generally get a good result. That's my life runs that way. So when I'm investing, I'm buying into interest in companies. Which ones do I pick? Well, pretty simple. Usually the ones I use. Yeah, and believe in, mostly stuff that supports my life, makes me happy, stuff that I've had around for a long time and said, yeah, I stake on it. It was. It's so sad. For instance, I can no longer buy into Fender guitars. All right, I believe in them. But they're owned by a consortium over here of investors. I can't get in. But yeah, that whole idea of looking at something that you believe in and use, putting a stake on it, I almost never. Well, I seldom fail. Yeah, there have been times when I got a little bit hot about some of the alternative energy companies and things. I've lost a shirt or two here or there, but I've lost some money on oil companies too. So whatever, you win some to lose some, or lose some to win some. Yeah, that's the way that works. It's kind of an 80-20 thing. You're lucky if 20% of what you invest in actually starts making you much money. And out of that 20%, 80% of the 20 is probably, slow. Only a few things are going to be rock and roll and hit you to the lottery. Yeah. Every now and then you'll pick one that's right. I'm always suggesting to people who have never done this to try it to begin with. Don't be afraid of it. Amazon ain't going away. I mean, well, Sears died, but kind of roll with the times there. But most of these large companies that we call blue chip stocks, they're not going away anytime soon. And so money that's laid in there is on your part to invest is not going away either. Now, it will sort of roll with the economy depending, but over a 10-year period, it is almost always an up graph. Yeah, and that's the idea, I think, for most of us, is to lay money down that's going to be used later on. Hopefully we have some excess. Hopefully with inflation, if it doesn't come down, that gets hard to do. But yeah, I recommend buying into bigger companies, things that are stable, things that have been around. Utilities, too. Most of them pay dividend. So there's another way that some stocks will pay you in the way they grow over time. The value of the stock will continue to increase. But others don't increase much. What they do is they pay dividends. Yeah, you're going to get a check quarterly. It comes down into your account. Ford's known for that. They have a dividend right now again, I think, too. I know before COVID, it was really good, man. It's like a 10% dividend. Yeah, that was really good. And the stock wasn't that expensive. So you buy it, collect the dividends, and then if you want to get out, you sell it, hopefully, as it does this thing. If you bought it down here, you sold it up there maybe, or at least even, so you collected your dividends, see? Yeah. But in the meantime, if you drive Ford cars, trucks, you like them, you'd be invested in a company that makes things that you use. Sometimes it's crazy. Amazon investment that I made years ago has grown to such an extent that probably, if I calculate the money I made on that as sold into the retail, I'll never pay for anything on Amazon ever again. The investment will have paid for all my purchases, most likely for life. Well, right now, our biggest obstacle to how's your economy, it really is inflation. That's my assessment. This is a unique one because we ordinarily would be heading for a recession or worse after COVID and the world having stopped for 2 years. Okay, that would create an economic recession, if not depression. And in most places, that is what's happening. It's not happening here, and it's most peculiar. I'm not sure, if it's this excellent management or just the luck of the draw or how this is going on, but they claim they're going to be able to bring this inflation down without a recession. Somehow they're going to be able to ease it down. Maybe they can, Maybe by playing with their interest rates and stuff, this actually can be done. Ordinarily, we live in a type of an economy where in corporate land, we believe in endless growth. It sounds stupid, but it's true. If anybody out there who's ever run business for other people, or had to make projections for growth in any kind of an organization into the next year, ordinarily, if you project for shrinkage less than the previous year, it gets thrown back in your face. This has happened to me while making projections for nursery sales, because of climate conditions in California. predictable, the El Ninos and La Ninas, and I incorporated them into my calculations. When I did that, my bosses who own the company took the numbers and threw them back in my face and says, show growth. Okay, yeah, it's an illusion. This is what we believe in. We believe in endless growth, and the only way you can actually do that is you have to have a reset, and that's what a recession is. A depression is a big-time reset. That's a reload, okay? Depression, that's a smaller thing. It's not as large. Right, Gracie? Gracie's over here. It's starting to rain pretty good. Just sitting here at my feet where it's dry. Says, Bill, why are you sitting there? It's going to rain. Let's go in. Okay, so Kat says, it's time to quit. But basically, that's what we're dealing with here. These depressions, recessions, there are resets in a type of an economy where what we believe is in constant expansion. The bubble busts periodically, brings itself back down to something that's real, and then starts growing again. And, humans don't live that long, or we have memories are lousy, or whatever. And so we kind of forget that really that's just exactly what this thing does, okay? That's how it works. And, man, I tell you, it's almost a fantasy if they can bring this baby back down so it just goes quietly so we don't notice. Usually what we get is yeah, and that isn't happening right now, and because it's not happening, I think we all ought to be thankful. I'd hate like heck to actually see myself in a situation of supporting a wartime economy because it's good for things, but neither do I like what Vladimir Putin's been doing over there, in particular on the edge of Europe. So I'd say that the expenditure is most likely required. And I'll tell you what, those bombs, those missiles, all that stuff, they make it here. It's all made here. So this argument of isolationism that you see in Congress to some extent doesn't really make any good sense directly to the constituents of the people over here that might be working for companies that make all that stuff. I'm sure some of you guys listening, were around during the Vietnam War, and that was hot on our economy, man. Oh, the amount of money that we dumped into bombs in the jungle. Yeah. Sad. Sick, in fact, but it's real. So it's also something else to consider about the situation we're currently in. And I can think of other reasons that are better than it's good for the economy. Hang loose.